Man, Avengers Endgame was so much fun. I can't wait to see Black Widow in theaters next summer.
75 years later.
Well, Black Widow is finally here, so let's talk about it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Justin. Here we talk about your favorite content from streaming services and in theaters. Today we're going to be talking about the newest MCU film, Black Widow. Question of the video: what other MCU character would you like to see get their own film? Comment down below with your answer, and there you can find mine. We all kind of have the same thoughts when it comes to this movie. Why didn't it come out years prior? This movie is set between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. And we know what happens to Natasha Romanoff in Endgame. She dies. So why bring back the character when she's already killed off? Does it kind of ruin those emotional moments set in Endgame? And I feel like it doesn't diminish it at all. I feel like it still is a strong emotional ending for Endgame, but you always felt like there was this past story with Natasha Romanoff and the Red Room and her being trained. And this film is a chance to kind of explore that and give her a satisfying ending. And I really didn't have the highest expectations going into Black Widow, mainly because of her character's death in Endgame. But I found this to be a very surprising film. I really did enjoy it. Not the best Marvel film by any means, not the worst one. It's just kind of right there in the middle. It's good as a kind of one-off story. Not a lot of stakes in play for the big MCU stories. This is mostly a story for Natasha Romanoff. This is a very kind of personal story, but also it's kind of setting up things for the future with Florence Pugh's character. I had this odd feeling when I was watching Black Widow that I know it's about Black Widow. The title is Black Widow. It's focused on Black Widow, but I just felt like she was a side character for most of the film. And that's mainly from the really strong performances from Florence Pugh, David Harbour, and Rachel Weisz. This is really focused on family. And the family that she did grow up with. It's been years since she has seen them since she had become an Avenger. So they've had time apart. But the film does such a good job of developing this family and making them feel like a family. The scene we see in the trailer at the dinner table and they're bickering back and forth, that all feels like a realistic family. And David Harbour in here really cares about family. He plays the Red Guardian, which is a Russian super soldier counterpart to Captain America and a father figure to Romanoff and Florence Pugh's character. So there's this really strong message of family, and it's really built throughout the film, and that's easily one of the best parts. And maybe that's why I felt like there was a little less focus on Black Widow and more focus on the family. Surprisingly, Florence Pugh's Yelena gets a lot of screen time in here, and she is kind of by Black Widow's side for a lot of the film. And reading upon articles and interviews, it said that this is kind of like Scarlett Johansson passing the baton to Florence Pugh. And she is casted in the Hawkeye series, so we will probably see a lot more of Yelena moving forward. But the whole family story in here is very solid. From Rachel Weisz to Florence Pugh and David Harbour, they all really feel like a family unit. Not a strong family unit, which gives it that realistic story, but definitely a family unit that's struggling to kind of comprehend their past and move forward as well, but also having a mission at hand. So this mission involves Taskmaster, which I was super excited to see. Taskmaster is one of the coolest Marvel villains. Just the abilities from Taskmaster, how they're able to copy the moves from superheroes, pretty cool, and could leave a really threatening presence within the film. Very, very weak villain in the story. Taskmaster looks really cool, and the fighting sequences are thrilling and sleek, but there's hardly any backstory for Taskmaster, and you just feel like they're there, and they really don't contribute a lot to the story. the overall story really doesn't even focus on Taskmaster. It's focusing on finding the Red Room and finally putting an end to it. And there's Taskmaster to kind of prevent that from happening. So really weak portrayal of Taskmaster. The action in here is really good. There's some really big action sequences. It's all very sleek. It's all thrilling, and they all look really good. There's a couple questionable green screen scenes at the end of the film, but for the most part, they all look really good. The performances in here are really good. You have Florence Pugh, like I said, contributes a lot to the film. She's written as a character that's strong at what she does. She grew up in the Red Room with Natasha, but she doesn't know how to kind of live her own life, and they explore that a lot in here. And so it's a chance for her to kind of grow as a character. She never bought her own clothes before, and so she gets really excited to do that. There's also a lot of humor in here, as Yelena is very strong in what she does, but she also kind of feels like a child at times because she hasn't really got to explore the outside world. And so there's a lot of humor surrounding that, and Florence Pugh definitely delivers a lot of those jokes. And then David Harbour is hilarious in the film as the Red Guardian. He is obsessed with being a superhero, and he is in love with his family. He understands that there's struggles along the way. He cares about the girls and Melina, played by Rachel Weisz. I just kind of fell in love with the fact that he enjoys being a superhero and he cares about family. And he's not fit for the role, and he struggles to put on his costume, but there's a lot of great chemistry amongst the four main characters, and there's a lot of jokes surrounding them, a lot of family jokes. Kind of reminded me a little bit of The Incredibles. Red Guardian reminded me of Mr. Incredible when he tried to put on his outfit, but how they kind of bicker back and forth, that realistic family did provide for a lot of jokes. So for this film being set between Captain America Civil War and Infinity War, we know what happens after Civil War. We kind of have it set up where she is on the run from General Ross, and that's when she encounters her family and kind of moves forward with the story of the Red Room and trying to find it. There's not a lot of stake in here, and it's for being the first film in the Phase 4. We already had a few entries in the Phase 4 with Loki and WandaVision and the Falcon and Winter Soldier. It doesn't really contribute a lot to, I guess, a big story with Phase 4. That's why I feel like it should have came out maybe right after Civil War and not have it years later. And I know this is a film that people were highly anticipating because we finally get a Black Widow story. It just feels years too late, and I know it's been pushed back several times because of the pandemic. That's not anybody's fault. I just feel like even if this film came out last summer initially when it did, I still probably would have thought that it should have came out right after Civil War. And so it does kind of feel off a little bit, and maybe that's why I don't feel like Natasha Romanoff has like the strongest presence within the film. Nonetheless, I do think that Black Widow was an enjoyable movie. I think there's a lot of great humor, very personal story, and that great sense of family is a strong point in here. The villain of Taskmaster is probably the weakest point within the film, but overall, a really fun film, kind of like right in the middle. I don't plan on doing a ranking video this time around. I'll do it for the next Marvel film. So it's just kind of right there in the middle. Not terrible, not great, but I would certainly enjoy watching it again. I'm gonna go ahead and give Black Widow a B. Thank you guys for checking my review for Black Widow, the newest MCU film. Have you guys seen it? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comment section down below, and stay tuned for more up and coming content. My name is Just Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.